Be with you. It's really great to be here.
It's fantastic to have you. So, I mean, start rolling with what you were telling me out there, the latest breaking info, their counteroffensive.
Well, you know, obviously, they're completely shocked. They're back on their heels because here we are, you know, people are recognizing that this is something that they want to fight. And when you're out there and you're at your city council meeting or you're visiting, some planning commission meeting, or you're at your kid's school and you're talking about what's going on, you really want to understand the big picture. And so this is obviously, there's a lot of disinformation going on to fight us, and there are people right on the ground, right in your neighborhood, that are out there working against you. So you want to be aware. And one thing that's going on, this is sort of funny in a way, is the United Nations Association, UNA, USA, their executive director has just written an open letter to the legislators of like 9 states. And these are the states that are actually launching legislation to fight Agenda 21, saying that we do not want to have anything to do with Agenda 21. And this guy, I posted this on my blog so that people can see it. It's actually a propaganda letter to the legislators saying, hey, you know, there's nothing to worry about here. You know, hey, basically, why are you wasting our time? Why are you wasting precious legislative time on this non-binding agreement? And the truth is that it is in every single piece of legislation. It is in federal, state, and local.
And we're showing this now from UNUSA.org. Right when you said it, we punched it up. It's on the front of their site. A foreign globalist corporate group is literally here trying to block us at the legislatures, blocking them. And the Southern Poverty Law Center is coming out with reports saying anyone that talks about it is a terrorist. And get this, the LA Times said it does not exist, Rosa. So that's how done they think their readers are. It doesn't exist, Rosa, but their organization is here fighting us.
Right. It's funny because it's all over the Los Angeles general plan. You know, I mean, literally, it is in the plan for every city in the United States. It's in all of your plans, all of your schools. It's in Common Core. You'll see it throughout your legislative documents. And this is the reality. Even though it's yes, it was a non-binding document. Yes, it's 20 years old, but it was implemented in the United States through the president.
But explain, when you sign off on it, HUD and all the agencies then bring you taxpayer money. They finance it.
Definitely, yes, because this is what they do. They impoverish the cities. The cities are crashed. The economy is collapsed. The cities are desperate for money. They're like, please give us some money. And the feds say, hey, sure, we'll give you the Partnership for Sustainable Communities funds. You'll get grants if you put smart growth in every part of your center. And
they tell all the top college people, all the top executives at companies, all the top kids in high school, we're going to pay for you to be flown to New York. We're going to make you part of the UN. And that's how they've got basically everybody. They tell Miss USA, you will not win unless you thank the UN.
That's right. UN USA they actually create mock summits that they put on at schools, at high schools and colleges, where they train you in Agenda 21. Meanwhile, of course, it doesn't exist, right? Meanwhile, people are being trained in it. They are being planners are actually being propagandized to talk to elected officials and planning departments and say, hey, Agenda 21 is nothing to worry about. This is a huge disinformation campaign, but we are fighting it all across the world.
And by the way, my film America Destroyed by Design that I shot in 96, put out in 2000, that I shot in 96, put out in 1997. I'm going to show for TV viewers clips of that where I went to model UN at the University of Texas with the high school kids, where open communism was being taught.
Yeah.
I mean, they were openly, but again, this corporate communism. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a corporatocracy. This is, you know, check it out. What globalization really is the standardization of systems. It's creating total uniformity, right? So that all systems are brought into uniformity, they call it harmonization. And so that means, what does a corporation want? They want open borders, they want no regulation, and they want low-wage workers. They want large markets that they can sell their goods in. This is what globalization is all about. It makes you part of the standardized world. And this is taking all of your information and creating a web of it. So
you're blind, but they can see everything controlled by a giant global authoritarian technocracy. Rosa Koire. But again, thank you for joining us. Rosa Koire, anti-New World Order, pro-liberty activist who ran into these people in California, getting in the way of what she was doing. That's how she discovered what they were up to because of her training as a forensic commercial real estate appraiser specializing in eminent domain valuation and a lot more. And for TV viewers, I'm going to roll some of an online version. It's better on the DVD that we obviously sell of America Destroyed by Design, of where I went to a model UN meeting. That's just part of the 2-hour film. Because, I mean, they are brainwashing the children right now while saying to the adults this doesn't exist. They're telling your kids all their guns need to be turned in, saying bang, bang with their fingers. They can be thrown out. They're giant re-education centers. That's not a figure of speech. And you've also got what their futurists are pushing for, how they intend to impoverish everybody. So, Rosa Koire, start out with what you were talking about with the education.
Yeah, basically what we're looking at is schools are not about teaching you information. This is really a behavioral modification program. This is about changing people's behaviors. And so children are being indoctrinated from the time that they're in pre-kindergarten all the way to through postgraduate school, and taught that basically they're killing the planet and that it's their responsibility to save it. So to create that kind of stress in a child, of course, you can imagine what kind of stress that is. And also, standardization of systems then is required in elementary schools all the way through postgraduate, where kids are being told that they have to learn a certain way and certain things, and they will be tested. We're looking at people who are actually being tested on their mental health. This is really what's going on in schools. This is how people are being evaluated, mental health evaluations. You'll see these happiness surveys, and this is all about, And
that's new freedom. It's the new prison is to get you in the criminal justice or mental system.
Right, and of course, prisons are the great public-private partnerships. They get a lot of money for prisons. There's restrictions on how people are moved through the system, on what you can do in the
prisons are giant re-education camps.
Oh, absolutely, and so are schools. Because hey, you can't not go to school if you don't want to. Even the homeschooling. If you're using curriculum from that's standardized curriculum, you are actually training your children in the New World Order. This is what this is.
And they make you do that. They're not accredited. And exactly, my kids are homeschooled, and most of the big materials out there, it's all Michelle Obama says this.
Yeah. And of course, you'll see that in, this is so pervasive. Don't allow this to, to stymie you. Don't be paralyzed by it, because we are fighting back, of course, all over the world. And you're not going to see it in the mainstream press, because that's also huge corporate ownership in the mainstream press. So they're still putting out the disinformation that, oh no, this stuff doesn't really exist, and this is just a figment of your fantasy tinfoil hat head, right? But the reality is that yes, we are really fighting back all over the world. And something that's happening is that kids are being taught there is no such thing as objective reality, that you cannot know what is real. And something like that is so evil to do to a child, to in fact change mathematics so that it doesn't have the certainty that it should have. And instead, well, it's your opinion.
No, they've designed it. I've interviewed the former head of education. They were there to dumb them down.
Yes.
It's there to screw them up. The test scores aren't dropping by accident.
No, it's reinventing. They are so-called reinventing mathematics. And, Charlotte Iserby, she is fabulous. Of course, I know you've interviewed her. She has a conference that's about to come out on DVD, a phenomenal conference of educators that is going to be talking about the reality about what is happening now in the school systems. Because when people are subjected to this kind of disinformation as young children, they are lost to us. Those of us who are older need to pull in and restrict the implementation of this plan on our children. And of course, we're seeing this. The futurists, you were talking about futurists. Futurists are out there, especially in Silicon Valley. You're being told that, the technocracy is so powerful that it's actually crafting new government, and the city-state will now rise as the most powerful government. So we're looking at the restrictions on representative government that are going to come longer and longer and stronger until we are literally pushed into these city-state mega regions and have no representational, no influence on what happens to our government.
And how do they push you in?
Well, it's fabulous how this is a brilliant plan, honestly, a brilliant plan, because what they're doing is they're moving people out of suburban and rural areas through funding mechanisms where they push smart growth, which is high-density development, on the city centers, and then kill the suburbs and the rural areas with restrictions on water, on development, on police.
They charge you more for your electricity, everything. We're going to come right back and break down how they plan to put us in their concentration camp cities. We're going back to really an amazing person, Rosa Koire. I admire people that are already successful in their own life, their own business, and then get run over by tyranny and stand up and fight it. And she has just reached millions and millions and millions of people and reached hundreds of counties and cities and traveled all over. She's an example of what you can do, even on a small level, to fight these people. And they always act like they can't be beaten. They always laugh and say, there's nothing going on, there's nothing happening. That's just a stalling tactic, and it's not working anymore. We're going to go back to her in a moment, and I'm going to ask her how she thinks they're going to handle that. But first off, let's look at drudgereport.com. Infowars.com has some of this reporting, but really the up-to-the-minute, minute-by-minute updating is at drudgereport.com on Obama in Israel. Obama faces battle to woo Israeli public, global cooling. Bethlehem rioters set fire to picture of Obama. White House map erases Jerusalem. Obama Netanyahu trade banter as they tread a new red line, saying, they've got to attack Syria that they've set up. I mean, it's an act that they're fighting with each other, ladies and gentlemen. That's all for public consumption. Shadow war rages. His limo breaks down. What is this, North Korea? And it just goes on and on. And then I was looking at the other headlines where the head of the IMF, who said that Europeans should work 6-7 days a week, but she's exempt from the taxes. How do you pronounce her name? I always say Lagarde, but it's a Lagarde. The point is that the police have raided her. They raided Sarkozy. They raid everybody. I mean, it's just all a bunch of crooks. And the last guy that was the head of the IMF, of course, what he was doing was supposedly in a hotel room, but that was a setup. And then Sarkozy put out tweets before he'd even been arrested, showing that he was running the whole thing. I mean, it just seems to never end how crazy all of this is. And Feinstein on Reed dropping gun ban. Major betrayal of trust. I mean, this is all a scam, acting like they've been beaten. They have the bill now out of the Senate committees to register all your guns and ban gun shows and not let you give a gun to your dad or your son or your brother so they can then confiscate them all. By the way, I've never asked you your opinion, your view on the Second Amendment. Because even if people can see there's problems with guns sometimes, once a lot of liberals, and I've been a Democrat, Democrats against 1021, once they see the real tyranny, they go, oh, now I know why there's the Second Amendment. I'm not condescending because I don't really know your view on it, but I mean, so many Democrats I know just think of it as a prerequisite to be a liberal, that you're anti-gun. I think Thomas Jefferson was pro-gun, and he's pretty, really about as liberal as it gets. What is your view on the Second Amendment, Rosa Koire?
Well, I had my own guns from the time I was 9 years old. My dad took me to the range, and I support the Second Amendment. I think it's important that we do have an opportunity to defend ourselves. That government that we have is there to defend our individual rights. That's the only reason to have a government. When your government becomes a communitarian government, such as the one that we have, that we're morphing into, we need to rethink what our relationship to our government is. And I think the Second Amendment is very important, and I support it.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's really the litmus test for people out there. Even if you don't like guns, you need to understand the power structure wants to disarm you. The UN has its treaty right now to disarm the general population. That is their admitted goal. Rosa, a plug for the book. I sell it at Infowars.com and InfoWarsStore.com. Of course, you wrote it. You sell it at your site. However people get it, whether it's on Amazon, you name it, they need to get it. And who do they give it to? Because my listeners know all this stuff. They've checked it out, most of them. they can always learn something from the book. But this is a tool. Who do you recommend we give this to?
You know, it's a cool thing that you just asked me that, because I just got an order from a woman who's a representative, a state legislator in Washington State. She just arranged to have 147 books, which is the number of legislators they have, sent to all the legislators in Washington State. And the book's gone out to every sheriff in California. Someone did a sheriff's project, and they're working in other states. It's very important that people understand what this is. This is a big picture book because, you know, Agenda 21, yes, it is an old document. It is being implemented all across the United States and the world. So people need to see what it looks like, because it's not called Agenda 21. You know, right here in Texas, I mean, you've got many different names for it. You're going to see it as smart growth. New Hampshire, they call it Granite State Future. It's Sustainable Communities Partnerships. I mean, very many names for it. You'll never see it as Agenda 21. You need to be able to recognize it. And that's one reason why when legislators, you know, start to make bans against Agenda 21, it's very important that people understand what they're looking at, because you can have a state law in place, but if you don't know that that state law applies to your general plan that you've just passed there in your small town in Bastrop, Texas, or whatever, you know, if you don't understand that, then you're not going to know that there's actually a state legislation against what's happening in your town.
Well, I mean, to explain what it is, people that don't know, the very banks bankrupting and imploding Europe by design. At the end of World War II, England and the United States had won, but the robber barons had won. Not really America. They'd beaten one tyranny, replaced it with another. They created the UN as a global government model on record to take over the world and create collectivism to secure the elite's control. So a fake kind of leftism. And also take over the right. And that's what it is, and that's what they're doing. Now, you got interrupted by the break a while back. Describe how they're going to force people out of the rural areas, because when they say sustainable, they mean the opposite of sustainability, because there's a lot of stuff that's good that's called sustainable, but that's not their sustainable. So explain what their master plan is, how they're counter-striking, what the world will look like if they succeed.
Yeah, what's unsustainable? You know, according to the UN, it's private vehicles, private single-family homes, meat eating, and here we are in Texas. Hope you like your barbecue, right? And air conditioning. These are things that are considered to be unsustainable in the world. And so when you're out there, now think about this. You say, nobody's coming to get me in my rural, you know, I've got my spread out there. Nobody's coming out there to get me. But the way that it happens is that you get charged vehicle miles travel taxes for your car. So if you're traveling a long distance.
Property taxes.
Your tax.
They tear up your road.
No water.
They shut off the local power plant.
You're going to have metering on your private wells. You're going to have restrictions. Your roads in my county, in Sonoma County, California, they're destroying county roads because they say there's not enough money, because federal money goes to pave roads that are in urbanized areas.
Yeah, they actually destroy the roads.
They're destroying.
Oh no, we're not going to leave it for you. We're going to destroy it.
They're turning them to gravel because they say they're not going to be able to maintain them. And this is like over 1,000 miles of roads that they're planning to do this to. So this is how it happens. You see, it's not, they close your rural roads and your suburban schools. You know, they close you out of the areas that you've been living in, and then they don't maintain the infrastructure. So when people move out of there, there's not enough property.
And Australia's about 5 years ahead of us. They're doing that there in earnest.
Oh, Australia is terrible. I mean, obviously, people are really dealing with it all across the world. This is not just a United States thing. I was interviewed on Red Ice Radio, which is based in Northern Europe, and you know, they were under the impression that this is some kind of a United States program. No, it is not. ICLEI, the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives, is everywhere. They say they...
Germany, by 2020, it's now law, has banned single home dwellings and has put taxes on it to penalize you. They're now talking about a one-child policy in Europe when Europe's already dying.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at towns like Freiburg, Germany, which is considered to be the sort of poster child for new urbanism, high-density development, where they've removed the roads, and literally there are no roads there. You've got little bicycle paths, and if you know, I don't know where they go when it snows, but you know, people are being restricted in how they live. This is social engineering. It's behavioral modification, and this is very important to know because you are being indoctrinated all the time through the press, through your schools, through your place of business, through your entire system.
And it all sounds good because once they get you to accept, oh, okay, we'll use less water, now they're going to say this, this, and that. Let me punch this up. It was covered by CBS News last week. The man for releasing a couple of heart-shaped balloons is facing 5 years in jail for each crime of damaging the environment. And they have arrested him, the state police did, because they saw the balloons being released. The third-degree felony, at least 5 years in jail per balloon. 40-year-old man, no criminal record. Again, in Australia, battery on the ground, your kid drops, 5 years in jail. The Green Police, the Audi commercial where they're arresting everybody, they later admitted, no, that's what we're going to do. The San Francisco mayor bragged, no, that was produced here. That's part of behavior modification. They admit it's brainwashing.
Yeah, more things are going to be crime. And this is, you know, you want to see what it's looking like, what it's going to look like. This is artificial scarcity. It's restriction on your use, on your ability to live free. It's making more things crime so that, you know, pretty soon, like I was afraid to go to Singapore. I thought, geez, I know I'm going to do something that's against the law. This is the city-state, the rise of the city-state, the mega region, where literally you are being restricted in how you live. And this is what Agenda 21 is about.
They admit, and this is in the Austin Merchant-Statesman, that they've doubled the power prices the last 5 years. They're going to double again. But the government district and what is seen as the managing district, the downtown and Terrytown, is exempt from power outages and the power increases. And they said, but all of you outside the city that live wrong, you're penalized. There it is.
Yeah, the grid is really all about
Austin is a model UN city.
Yes, this is, you know, this is really what it's about. The entire system is set up like this, where the grid is part of it. Smart growth, smart meters, all these smart things. Don't trust this smart stuff, because what this is a restriction, artificial scarcity, a movement away from the way that you've been living, and monitoring on every aspect of your life. This is domestic surveillance. When we're looking at National Defense Authorization Act, we're looking at drones, we're looking at the way that you are literally being surveilled. How about 23andMe, where you're going to spit into a cup and give them your DNA? And this is Google, owned by Google. You literally won't own your own genes. The human genome has been mapped, and you don't own your own.
They've been taking blood for 41 years in all industrialized nations for a UN database that they just now admitted they have, and Google is all part of it. Look at this from the Sun Sentinel. After watching the romantic gesture, the Florida Highway Patrol trooper, who instead noted probable cause for an environmental crime, Bransfield was charged with polluting to harm humans, animals, plants, etc. under the Florida Air and Water Pollution Control Act. And he, again, is facing 5 years per count, per balloon, and they're going to probably end up putting him in jail.
Yeah, I wonder if, you know, this was to propose to his girlfriend, right? So are they going to let him have conjugal visits in prison?
Unbelievable.
You know, I mean, this
but, I mean, they're hiring cops now that literally... I mean, they get off on hurting innocent people.
You know, if you look at the way police officers, first of all, are terrified. You know, they're out there suited up like that because they are afraid of us. And why are they afraid? Because they are creating, you know, when you've got police officers in public meetings, when they come in and they ring the walls of a public meeting because you might say something because you're being Delphied and you don't like it. You know, this is...
Yeah, describe... We've had our guys thrown out of meetings being polite, where they say they're public, but as soon as we ask questions, they walk over and follow a playbook and then go, you're causing a problem. Get out of here. Officers, I want them out.
Yeah, you know, I've been chased down an aisle while I was holding a mic, and I said, what are you going to arrest me because I'm saying something? This is the way it's going now. In fact, I've got on my blog right now on Democrats Against UN Agenda 21, I've got a post from New Hampshire where these people went into a New Hampshire meeting and they anti-Delphied it. All they did was literally just talk about what was going on.
We've got the site up. What do we punch up? And we'll go to it.
Let's see, go to The Way We See It, our blog.
The Way We See It.
Yeah, click on that. And it's a New Hampshire Listens project from Granite State.
And that means Delphi. We're going to do what we want. Explain Delphi.
Well, Delphi is it's a RAND Corporation mind control technique being used by the American Planet.
And they admit that. Yeah. You're not just saying mind control.
Oh, no.
This is mind control. Yeah.
No, that's the purpose of it. This was what it's about, is to bring groups of people to a predetermined outcome while giving them the idea that it was, giving them the impression.
So false synthesis.
It's all your idea. Oh, yeah, we love your thoughts. We want to hear what you think. But meanwhile, if you don't agree, don't show up. These people were accused of crashing a public meeting. Can you believe that? You don't crash a public meeting when you're the public. But because they were New Hampshire Tea Party people, they're considered to be a special interest. And they're not, and they're crashing.
Oh, yeah, they're the terrorists.
They're
not a stakeholder.
No.
Only stakeholder groups are allowed.
That's right. And none of us are stakeholders. And that's what's really a mind blower, is that they go in years in advance. 2002, for a 2012 program, they go in 10 years early and they identify.
Oh, listen, we've run into it in East Texas with our property.
Oh, sure.
They have local operatives who move in, have a grant, act like a local.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're a retired colonel, you name it.
Yeah.
And they run psyops and go, I won't report you for that barn if you work with me to shut down the coal mine. And I mean, it's like mafia.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this. Alex, I do travel all over the United States, and I have been told in many, many states, people come up to me, people have organized meetings, and they say, listen, we had people move into our town. They only came in, they rented an apartment, they only came in for a meeting, and they flew out of town.
No. We've got them over here where the mayors get the money in these towns and then bring in actual UN people.
Yes. I had that in my own town, people who came in to PSYOP against me. And, you sound crazy when you talk about.
And what's incredible, I wanted to talk about that because now that it's coming out, it's real. And people go, wait, there's actual, these are mercenary soldiers posing as liberals. Yes. That's their camo.
Yeah.
And once you corner them, I've even had them threaten me and stuff. They know they're officers.
Yeah.
They know they're commandos. I mean, these are actual, like, CIA agents, basically, infiltrating America.
Yeah, in my book, I talk about this guy who was in our town, who was a United Nations diplomat, who moved into our town, into a dinky little house in our town. He'd been living in an estate in Greece, right? He moves into a little town, into our little town, onto a little street. And then what did he do? He set up a neighborhood association and a neighborhood alliance. This is what they do. They enter in so they can create public consent.
Schwarzenegger admitted when we destroyed their Copenhagen takeover 4 years ago, he said, we will move into the towns and cities. He said, I will coordinate the operation. That's quotes. I mean, the forces will move in. They'll not stop us. I mean, it's so obvious. Arrest them all. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's treason, man. And the thing is, you know what? Don't let this paralyze you. There are way more of us than there are of.
Oh, no. It should energize you.
Let me show you something. Check this out. This is on our website. Take a look at this, okay? These are flyers. You can go to our website, go to the flyer page, print these out, $6. You can print a two-sided flyer, 100 of them, print them out, and put them on people's doorsteps. You want to spread the information.
Hey, go to church. That's what we do with the bumper stickers, all of it. Get aggressive, get motivated, stomp Gobela's butt.
Yes, that's it. And when you do this, people, first of all, people can't argue with you because you put it on their porch in the morning. They pick it up. Each individual reads it separately. And this is what we need to do, is spread awareness and get the information.
And people are more hungry than ever.
People know there's something wrong. Everyone knows there's something wrong.
There's an enemy literal takeover, and they've got collaborators working with them. And let me tell the criminals something. We take this country back. They all need to go to, there needs to be a Nuremberg trial, doesn't there?
Yeah, there is Nuremberg principles, because you know what? Just following orders ain't gonna fly. There is no excuse. We
just had the police in Austin on video last week say we couldn't hand out magazines or have our bumper stickers on our cars. On video, we have this.
Whoa.
I mean, this is getting freaky. Alex Jones here. I know we got loaded phones here, and I want to get to these callers who've been on hold since the last hour, but I've got to also, because we're going to have our guest into the next hour, I've got her to stay with us here. But I want, callers to try to address something to her, and then you can bring up your issue, which she can also talk about, because all of this ties into this. Okay, this is global government, private mega banks, their dream plan to be above the law and run world government. I mean, that's what it is. And that's who runs it. If you look at who funds the UN, Sustainable Development, the gun control groups, all of them, it's Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, a few others, Bank of America. You look at who funds in Europe all the takeovers. You look at who funds all the anti-family stuff. You look at who just funds anything destructive, it's them. And because they're a bunch of crooks. And we've got to wake up to that or it's game over. And what she's saying is, get aggressive. Go to her website. And we had flyers about the New World Order. I'm going to reintroduce these as well for our listeners, where you can just print them off, get them out to people. We ought to have a contest where listeners write flyers, maybe a $1,000 contest, so you can write the best flyer, and we can post all the flyers up on the site. But you go to the site and get, why is everyone talking about Agenda 21? And then it's just, a two-sided page deal that breaks it down that says, please copy and distribute. Awareness is the first step in the resistance. And the same thing, get the book en masse at InfoWarsStore.com. We sell it as lowest price you're going to find out there, and even comes with some bumper stickers of InfoWars.com. And fight them. And you'll find, people hear me and they go, I'm scared, I'm going to give up. It's the opposite. Get aggressive, because these are tyrants. When you resist them, they get scared. They only win when we don't resist. Rosa, talk about the success you've had. And am I wrong in saying the only fear we should have is fear itself? The only fear we should have is to not get aggressive and let them take over?
Yeah, they're the ones that are taking the nonviolent training. I mean, not to say, I'm not talking about being violent, okay? But what I'm saying is, get out there before you need to get violent. You don't want to have to use your guns, because you know what? The government's got way bigger guns than you've got. What we need to do is to get out there and fight this while we can. And
they're in the wrong.
Our time. Absolutely.
That's why they stonewall. Talk about the stonewalling.
Oh, for crying out loud. You will be called a tinfoil hat. You'll be told that you're a fantasist. You will be called a right-winger. I've been called a right-winger. I've been a liberal Democrat my entire voting life. My parents are liberal Democrats.
You were at the highest levels of the State Department of Transportation.
I worked for the Department of Transportation.
And discovered all this.
And, I came out, what I did was I was appraising property for eminent domain purposes to acquire for freeway projects. And I was like, hey, what happened to private property rights? People can't do anything with their property anymore. How can I value it?
So you didn't like being in the place of a tyrant?
No, of course not. And obviously, I mean, I was valuing property at the very highest price that the market would pay, and I was finding that you couldn't determine what people could actually sell their property for, because you couldn't say what they could do.
And that's the tactic. The globalists are the only ones that can allow, once they steal property, they always flip it to themselves and then take the restrictions off.
And this is what happens, is that the centers of your towns, this is what Agenda 21 looks like in your town. It looks like high-density, smart growth development right in the center of your town that is being subsidized with your tax dollars. So because of that, because you're actually paying for this, there's no demand for it. People don't want to move into those condos and apartments on top of shops. Most people want to live elsewhere. So their money is not there to build those things. Your tax dollars are paying for it. And this is what's happening, is you're subsidizing that. And this is the hardscape for your future poverty. This is what it's going to look like, because the new frugality is, or the new poverty, the sort of the joy of living with. Oh,
you go to Whole Foods, every magazine says it's sexy to be pathetic and poor.
Yeah, right. And it's like,
and to give all your money to the government. Yeah.
Right. And so when you glorify poverty and when you glorify consensus, right, it's like, you're not going to think for yourself, are you? Because then you're going to be ostracized.
These people are pathetic.
You're going to be ostracized. You're not going to be loved by this big group that's going to, and they,
But it's all a fake love. It's like being in the schmuck club. And Rosa, people ask me, who are new listeners, they go, why are you so excited? Well, ladies and gentlemen, when the police tell you can't have bumper stickers on your car in downtown Austin, I mean, we're 2 minutes to midnight. I mean, when they are giving $85 billion a month to foreign banks to prop up their derivatives, and we've got to pay interest on money we give them, I mean, that's a screw job on a screw job. I mean, I get animated. I mean, if I caught somebody stealing a bicycle out of my garage, which I have before, I got pretty mad and chased them. I mean, and I guess that's abnormal. I'm supposed to just want to, like, act like I'm part of it and just go with it and be screwed. Go ahead.
Yeah, this passivity thing, you know, you're supposed to be passive. You know, it's about consensus. It's about going along to get along. You know, that is the way that you are taken over. Who's going to tell you not to raise a stink? Those who are taking you over. Revolution is bad for business, right? And this is not revolution, by the way. We are exerting our rights.
This is restoration. They're involved in a revolution.
They are the revolutionaries. They are taking us over. You know, this is a hostile takeover. This is a totalitarian state being erected around us right now. This is what it looks like. It's a failed state happening to us right now. We're being taken down because you know what? Hey, check it out. Our median household income in the United States, it's like $50,000 a year for a household median. That's in the middle, not the average, right? Well, in the world, it's like $5,000. For a, you know, so look at that.
Wow.
10 times. So look at how far we have to come down before those markets, they're going to bring the developing world up a little bit and then take us down. Why? Because our wages are too high, because our expectations are too high, because we use everything too much. And guess what? Why would they want to take us out of the land? Why would they want to remove people from the land? Why do they want
I mean, at one level,
density cities? They want to collect people into city centers so that we can be more easily monitored, controlled, and surveilled, and so that those areas outside the wildlands, so that those areas can be exploited for gas, oil, minerals, for timber.
Oh, yeah. No. When they say they care about the environment, it's the complete opposite.
We'll be told that there's scarcity. This is an artificial scarcity that's being implemented on us right now. This is what it's about. You know, if you take a look at 1984, that is about artificial scarcity. This is how it's done. And this is what totalitarianism looks like. People think, oh, no, it can't happen here. Hey, it's happening here. This is what it looks like. We need to stand up now. This is our moment. Nuremberg principles. The Nuremberg principles are that it is not okay to go along to get along. You cannot say that you were just following orders or that, you know, everyone else was doing it. That is not all right. This is treason. And those people who, you know, this falls in with a liberal worldview. It's very appealing to a lot of people because they think they're doing.
Yeah, they think it's redistribution. They don't get that once you're under globalist control, it's going to be forced population reduction. And they've romanticized kind of the low-level propaganda that, oh, it's to build a better world. It's not building a better world.
No, it's not. And you know what? People want to know what Agenda 21 is. Agenda 21 is the plan. It's the plan to implement sustainable development. It is the action plan to inventory and control all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production.
It's the takeover plan.
All information and all human beings in the world. This is a real plan signed on to by the United States.
The battle plan.
Implemented by your federal government, in your states, in your local governments, in your schools. It is happening now.
I want viewers watching us on InfoWarsNews.com and radio listeners out there to listen to me very, very carefully. Okay? If you don't get out of your coma and get upset and get aggressive, we're going to be usurped. We're designed to face an enemy coming over the hill to enslave our village. That's what we're genetically, every race, color, creed, know instinctively. But we're not designed to deal with bureaucracy and propaganda and taxes and regulations, and that's the real 21st century tool. And under the globalist, they want a system that goes backwards to a post-industrial world where we're dumbed down, we're kept at starvation level, we're socially engineered to take the vaccines, the forced sterilization, the forced abortions, to, quote, reduce population. And a lot of yuppies go, well, there are too many people. Well, let me tell you something. You're under the attack, and the West is dying. Europe will not even be European within another generation, okay? They have about 1.3 children. Same thing here in the U.S. So don't worry. You've committed suicide. And I know you want to make sure you can kill the third world where you want to cut their energy supplies as well. So I know it gives you a power trip to think about cutting off power and being poor. And there are problems with a decadent consumerist society. I get all that. I get why you think it's sexy. But the issue is this isn't even, what you're being told this is for isn't even it. This is a total post-industrial world, in Maurice Strong's own words, and all their books. I got a whole bookshelf of them. We source them in my film Endgame, to shut everything down and create a monopoly of power and have high-tech government and corporate reservations that are light years ahead with life extension, robotics, androids. This is what they're saying. Life extension. Go read what Ray Kurzweil and all of them say. Well, we live in the city ghettos around that if we're even allowed to live. So this is the shutdown of society so we can be exterminated. And it sounds like a science fiction movie because they were telling you what they were going to do in the science fiction movies that are really in Bertrand Russell's and others' writings. So this is the plan. It's hyper-authoritarianism. It's a creeping death, but it's here, where China has, dead pigs in the river and fires in the river and suicide nets at the Apple factories because they're so liberal. Al Gore, I mean, it must be okay. Peace bombs, I mean, Obama. And the Republicans are all on board with it, of course, because they're all bought and paid for in the same group, at the highest echelons. And they get 3 new coal power plants, totally dirty. We get 3 or 4 shutdown a week or more, 200 plus a year. Power prices going up. We're having the lights turned off. They're tearing it all up. Only the megacities, and that's not just a Drudge Dread term. That's their term. That all the maps are public. Look up megacity regions, super regions. They're shutting us down. So it's important to go to Rosa Koire's website and see the city council meetings she's been at, what she does, the planning commission meetings. Get her book, read it, mimic that because her playbook is dead on truth, Veritas, pure crystalline. Get the book at InfoWarsStore.com. Get it out and go be the leader. And now we go to these meetings outside Austin. They're in every town. We outnumber them now. They're panicking. Other areas, though, people aren't waking up, so it's a mix. Go to the meeting she's got tomorrow in Bastrop, the original capital of Texas. They were going to make it. Talk like Yoda now. Bastrop, the original capital of Texas, they would make it. You need to go there and fight the empire. I mean, the fight is now, folks. This is real James Bond stuff, okay? I mean, you want to fight, you want adventure, you want to fight criminals, this is it. I mean, they know. They're technicians. You will face UN operatives. You will face globalist operatives. Okay, 8-9 minutes left in this segment. I'm going to try to give you the floor. It's just I start hyperventilating. This is so important. Talk about what we're facing, the meeting, and other points you haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah, hey, if you're here in Texas, the Sustainable Places program, it's who knows? They all have the same kind of names, but these names are, interchangeable everywhere across the country. These are all regional programs that are designed to destroy jurisdictional boundaries, erase jurisdictional boundaries, and create these mega regions, which, America2050.org, this is a program and a project of the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, B of A, the huge corporations.
The folks that made the UN.
This is it. This is what they want to do. And this is a battle for the hearts and minds of the people of the world. Don't think it isn't. And it's almost like we've been, I like to say this, it's almost as if there's been a football game going on for the last 20 years, and we were out in the parking lot having a kegger. And now we're suited up. We've got our, our pads on, our helmets are on. We've got the ball. We have the ball now. And this is the thing, is that when you've got the ball, you need to know where the goal is. And we need to fight to move forward, to block all of this and re-erect our freedom.
How do we rout the enemy? Tell us.
This is it. You know what? Let me just say this. Remember this, private property rights include your person, your body, your mind.
Oh, they're now saying they're going to force vaccines on us. That's part of UN.
Your most important private property. This is it. Hey, when my mother was dying in the hospital, they told me I had to go get a flu shot in order to spend time with her. I went down to the basement, picked up a receipt out of the trash and went back up and gave it to them. I didn't get a flu shot. These things are designed to restrict you, to make you fall into line, to be obedient. Hey, when you're in the airport, don't go through that thing. Go early and make them do the pat down on you.
Yeah, start saying no.
Resist. Do not go along. Expose collaborators and refuse to collaborate yourself. If you're getting money from this plan, if you're, examine what you're doing. Examine your life. Hey, if you're smoking weed out there on the couch, you know what? Put it down, make those flyers, and get out there and get this information.
Take it personal.
This is your life. There's no joking around here. This is the time to do it. If we don't do it now, we are not going to be doing it We have a window now. Let's move through it. We are actually raising awareness all over the world, and things are happening all over the world. This is a change. You've got to know your enemy, identify nonprofits, the collaborators, the consultants that are putting these plans together. You want to call them out. You want to identify how much money is being paid to them.
Yeah, that's how they pay the mercenaries. Describe your speech tomorrow. I mean, how you identify these people.
Oh, well, it's all over. Of course, there are... You know, here's how it is done. Basically, the federal government gives money to the local to the local governments and the metropolitan planning organizations and the councils of government. And here in Texas, you've got like 27 of them. Across the United States, there are 500. This is where the money comes down. All the federal agencies have actually changed their policies to bring them into alignment with Agenda 21, and the local agencies are doing the same thing. So you want to expose this, you want to identify it, and then you want to block it. You want to speak out. Show up and speak out. Do not be afraid, because if you don't do this, you know, they're going to... This is the way it works with collaborative government. This is what you're getting. Consensus government, if you don't speak out, they assume that you agree. Can you believe that? They assume that you agree, and because you don't have representative government anymore, then it's all by consensus and collaboration. So if you're not there, they assume it's an implicit agreement.
And it's all under Admiralty administrative. They're transferring the state constitutions and having the counties and cities criminally sign over authority to regional boards run by their unelected criminals.
That's it. These are appointed boards. You cannot get them out. You can't influence them. They're made up of elected officials, but there may be 80 or 100 people on that board. So if you've got an elected official from your town who you've convinced that this is a bad idea, that guy or woman is not going to have much of a voice. This is what happens with consensus government. This is a nightmare. We need to block it, to call it out, and to refuse to collaborate. And we need numbers. You do it in your small town. You know what? There's no Switzerland in this fight. Don't think you're going to go hide in your bunker. You're not. Okay? You may stay there for a while, but what's going to happen when you come out? The thing is, you need to be there in your small town right now. You go down and you speak out. You call this out. Name it. It is Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. Name it. Refuse to allow yourself to be sidelined or shamed or embarrassed.
And I explain it just like this. Look at how the banks brag they've conquered Europe. Here's the Financial Times of London. Print out that headline. Here they are, folks. This is it.
Yeah.
By making your land worthless, they double the value of their land.
Right. Draw the links. You know, that's one thing in my book, and that's why I wrote that book. I can't go all over I am all over the U.S., but I can't be everywhere. So I wrote the book so people could have that info. And it's on the website, too. And, it's all over. People are getting this information now. Now, the direct line is from the United Nations plan into the federal government through the President's Council on Sustainable Development, and then right down into your state and local government. It is not some plan that's not out there that doesn't have any impact on you. It is a real plan happening now. It has been happening for 20 years. It has changed your school system. It's changed your government, and you are... don't allow yourself to be victimized by it. You take your power.
Take it personal, but look at like your mother. First, they try to make the nurses take it. There's no law. Now it's laws they're trying to pass at state level and have passed in some states where you can't even be in child care. That means a coach, little league, whatever, if you don't take hundreds of shots they want. And there's no law, so they're trying to get laws, but they would just say, can't see your mother unless you take a shot that they admit doubles your chances of getting the flu in their own studies. It's just pure mafia color of law where Big Pharma says, hospital, do this.
Yeah.
And then they order you, and everybody follows orders. What empowers this? Following tyrannical orders.
Yeah, and look at, if they make it, obviously, in the town next to my town, in my county, it's against the law to smoke in your apartment, right? Hey, think about smart growth. You're in your apartment, right? You're in your condo. You can't smoke legally. It's against the law. Think about that. People are taking antidepressants so that they...
Sure. Thanks, and take care.
Thanks for joining us today as we try to awaken humanity worldwide. This is a worldwide problem of the United States. In Europe, are really the heart of it. Up at Infowars.com right now, Congressman fights to stop flying robots endlessly watching Americans. That's the actual headline, what the congressman said. U.S. moves to support al-Qaeda in Syria following unconfirmed chemical attack, which al-Qaeda had said they would launch. it's really becoming a Alice in Wonderland type situation. Who will be the first killer wearing Google glasses? One thing is certain. He'll say he thought it was a movie. Great article by John Rappaport, who joins us tomorrow. And that's just some of the articles up on the site. Rose, I want to take some calls now, but then get back into other solutions and how you anti-Delphi these people and how to recognize just one of their techniques they use. What do you make of, I don't see this working for them anymore, to just deny what they're doing or go, oh, we do run al-Qaeda now, but we still have to take your rights because of al-Qaeda. I mean, it's just the narrative is so thin, and people are waking up, and the government's answer is billions of bullets and tanks and checkpoints, and then to say there are no checkpoints, there are no tanks, when they now have TSA checkpoints in downtown Austin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, the thing is that what they'll do is they'll tell you it's some right-wing thing, that you're fantasizing, that this isn't real. And meanwhile, you've got disinformation people running all over. You know, when Hitler came to power, when Hitler marched into Austria, they actually arrested like 60,000 people in a single day when he went into Austria. They arrested dissenters. How did they know who they were? In a group of 3 people, one of those people would be a spy. Can you imagine the amount of people that you need to do a network like that? And what we have right now with domestic surveillance, with drones, with restrictions, with people who have infiltrated neighborhoods, they're right down into your neighborhood associations. They look just like you, and they are the people who are hired as consultants, as people who are pushing these plans. Some of them think they're doing the right thing.
Listen, we've had guys in suits come out when we're doing men on the street things, and then we find out they're local bureaucrats, and they will call the police on us for being on a street corner doing interviews. They'll walk over, and this is on tape, and go, I got somebody for you to talk to in one moment, and they're already ready under InfraGard, that program, for the time will be taken away, and they get on these power trips that they're little secret agents now. Yeah. I mean, no, you're dirtbag criminal collaborator.
This is treason. But you know what? There are a lot more of us. And one thing, you know, yeah, I'm a left liberal, but you know what? This is a nonpartisan fight.
That's why you're wearing purple.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. We're not blue and red. We are, you know, let's be a nation. Let's be a nation of individuals. We come together as individuals. I
like that idea, the purple movement.
Yeah.
Did you invent that idea?
Well, no, I think, well, of course, it's my little undercover gay thing, too, because I am gay. But, you know, yeah, no, obviously, that's what we are, right? We are one country.
I didn't know purple had something to do with being gay. But
oh, well, that's because you're not gay, so you don't know.
Okay, well, but I mean, my whole deal is I like the idea of saying
blue and red.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's because this terrifies those in power. You want to terrify the people who are running this thing? You make common cause with people who are on the left. You find what it is. If you're going to refuse smart meters, you want to fight smart meters, that's something that people...
And they always try to make it a left or right issue. What does that have to do with it? A robot attached to my house spying on me, and they admit they're spying, and then go, but then say, they're now arresting people all over with no warrants for no reason. They're now going in houses to look at guns without warrants. That's in the news today. I mean, it's authoritarianism.
Yeah, wait till they put a chip in every gun, you know, and they got a chip in everything, and there you are, you know, everything you do is...
And they're saying it's a felony if the chip isn't in it. They're proposing that.
Right. And this is how it, you know, the bag gets tightened. This is how it happens. This is what it looks like. You know, we are not quite at square one anymore. But people are still at this point where they're like, you know, nah, that can't happen here in the United States. You bet it can. You think we have some, like, super shield around us or something?
Oh, no, they're doubling down with tyranny when they fully move.
Now, this is what it looks like. You know, this is why we need to block it now. We need to become aware. Wake up. You know, get sharp. Put these, you know, alert people. If you blanket your town with flyers, somebody just put 70,000 flyers out on the East Coast, which is really...
I like what you just said. You snapped your fingers. We do job interviews, and people come in here, and they're, like, dazed, and you can't get through to them. And they admit, because of all the TV screens and things, people get in trance-like states. And sometimes when I'm talking to crew or whatever, they're all smart, but I've got to go, hey, let's actually get in a conscious mode here, because all of us get kind of in this dazed, you know, world.
And you get overwhelmed. And plus, you know, when you're doing gaming and all that stuff is coming at you really fast, you know, I was sitting on the plane, there's this little kid next to me, and he was like completely absorbed with this thing. And I was thinking, you know, do his parents know that his movements on that game board identify him? Your movements on a game board are literally your ID. And this is the
Oh, they've got algorithms watching that.
everything, you know. So if you're having your brain synapses changed from using, then you're not going to be able to read, right?
They admit it's actually dumbing the kids down.
Yes, absolutely.
And they're like, don't attack video games. And you can tell the video game head, they can't communicate with you.
Yeah, no, hey, that's right. And this is how it happens. It's slow, but it happens with the next generation. Don't let it happen on your watch.
Wow, Rosa, I'm impressed. You really know your stuff. Wow, what a smart lady. We'll be back with your calls. We are being conquered. The military-industrial complex owned by foreign banks created the UN and the Presidio in San Francisco in 1945. It's all on record. Their plan to end the family as you know it, their plan to end towns, cities, everything, and only have mega cities that are above the law with globalists in them operating as city-states, like the Vatican is an example of. I'm not demonizing Catholics of the Vatican. I'm saying that's the model. Or the city of London within London, that financial capital. Or how Israel is kind of, you know, outside the UN, does whatever it wants. That is going to be the model. She was talking about that. We'll get to more of that after some calls. It is so important for you to understand that people talk about discrimination on race or sex or things like this. They obsess on that all day and the old fights to get us fighting with each other, when to shut down over 200 power plants in Obama's first 4 years that were clean burning and to see power prices go up everywhere. I mean, that is, when you attack a country, bombers fly in and bomb the power plants. The globalists are destroying our infrastructure, paying $22 billion to ship General Motors to China, Brazil, and Eastern Europe. And you're like, well, the Chinese, what, so they can have suicide nets? It doesn't. They're actually going down. They're not. They forced everybody off their land in southern Mexico and into the maquiladores. And then they're up here. What choice do they have? And then, oh, the government's like, get some free welfare, not to empower them clients to then vote to take the guns. It's all balkanization. The globalists want more chaos because they're exempt from it all, and they're just, you know, crushing things, smashing things, so they're left standing. And then they get paid to come in and they play all sides, just like they create Al-Qaeda, create Taliban, empower them, so they have a reason to be there and get all the opium. With Karzai saying, you run Al-Qaeda, you run Taliban. I don't just believe Karzai, they're using them in Libya and Syria. It's not, people say, you say America did that? The globalists that run our country created the Soviets on record. That's all declassified now. They've had New York Times articles having to admit, well, they declassified the Russian stuff. Turns out McCarthy was right, but he was limited in what he was doing. They were using him to low-level communist. Instead, when he said the army runs Russia, oh, that's it, you're discredited. When you figure out the globalists are full spectrum dominance, they will play all the major sides, but they don't play we the people. They don't control you. They don't control me. And there's a lot of good people in the system as well. This is a very criminal group, a very small group doing this. Every case, it's the J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, it's the Rockefeller Foundation. Go look at who funds all this. The Rockefeller's name is on everything. And who gave the land for the UN? I mean, it's them, folks. It is them. Most important man alive, David Rockefeller. Probably more than the Queen of England and her cousins, Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, who's there, Queen Beatrix, who, I mean, that woman's probably more powerful than the Queen of England because she's hands-on. And now she's handing it over to her son, who's really creepy. But here it is, Behind the Green Mask, UN, Agenda 21. Get this book. Support us. But that's secondary. Get the book. Buy 100. Rosa, I'm not putting a pretty face on this. We're going to calls. Am I right in saying that we are just having magic-level success right now because old-timers warned people for so long, planted the seeds, got called kooks, but now everybody remembers they were told about this 20 years ago? I mean, are we not seeing a giant wake-up right now when Obama raises taxes on poor people and promised he wouldn't?
Yeah, it's really incredible what's happening, not just across the United States only, but around the world. This is, and of course, the people's media, like you, Alex, I mean, this, you know, with the internet, people are beginning to recognize that, hey, they're not alone. They are part of a huge worldwide grassroots, nonpartisan movement to stop United Nations Agenda 21 sustainable development. So, you know, obviously...
Real solidarity.
And listen, this is public-private partnerships. So when you see that Siemens Corporation, the old Nazi corporation, and GE and IBM, these are the Nazi collaborators. They didn't go away. You know, people think, hey, do you think in 1945 it all stopped? No.
I was told by an FBI agent 16 years ago that came down to Access TV to visit me, and I checked and it was an FBI agent. that I was being tracked when I made that America's Way by Design film, because nobody was covering UN Agenda 21 then. I mean, that's in that film. And I said, who's tracking me? And he said, basically operatives of Siemens. Look into that. Yeah. And it's funny you just said Siemens.
Oh, Siemens USA is a huge player. We have a page on our website, Democrats Against UN Agenda 21, on who funds Agenda 21. Siemens is a huge player. They have a tremendous amount of money, $27 billion in just money laying around right now. They are in the grid. They're in water. They bought up the United States' largest water supplier, U.S. Filter. They're in surveillance. They're in smart growth. They're in high-speed rail and light rail. They are in everything. And it's not just about money. It's not just about greed. We've got IBM, which made the punch cards and computers for the Nazis, and then you've got your numbers tattooed on your arms. Well, now you've got biometrics. Retinal scanning is the latest. That is going to be the biggest growing industry.
Google glasses.
In the world, right? Yes, when you've got that, listen. Game over, okay? We've got to stop this now, block it now, refuse to collaborate, refuse to cooperate. Do not be a party to this.
And they're moving on every front with forced inoculations, retina scanning to get in the gym. And you're like, well, so what? It's high tech. Bad people run it, folks. They're going to use it to take everything out of your bank account. They're going to use it, they now admit, which we reported 12 years ago, but they now admit that all the customer loyalty cards are uploaded to the government and the insurance companies.
Right.
I mean, that's why. I mean, it's so cold-blooded.
Rand Paul just put out, I think it just came up today or the other day, about the America Community Survey, that is actually mandatory.
And they lie and say it's the law when it's not. They put a code on there and say it's the law, but it's fraud.
Well, now he's launched legislation saying, hey, you don't have to fill that thing out. But guess what? You don't have to fill these things out. If it's not required, if don't give them your...
Well, it also says under penalty of perjury, so if you make a mistake, it's a felony.
Oh, yeah.
But let's see, they show the code. It says, say how many people live here. So it's a trick. The code on it is the questions you've got to answer. Mm-hmm. And then another 50 to 100 to 200, what's your toilet? What's your stock and bonds? Do you have guns? When do you go to work?
Right.
How much money do you make?
Yeah, what are you growing on your land? I mean, I've had farmers come up to me from, all over the nation and saying, geez, Rosa, what do I do? Do I have to fill this thing out? They want to know everything.
Hey, when you fill out the animal premises ID, that again is not law but color of law, it waives all your rights. It's frauds. Criminals.
This is the new world order, is government by decree, government by regulation, restriction. This is about you losing your representative rights. Your representative government is disappearing.
In America, I can't hand out magazines in Austin until I went down there. And they said, we're going to arrest you next.
Yeah.
And I said, go ahead, we're going to sue all of you. And they had to back off. But my God, and the police were even later going, we're sorry, we were ordered to do it. It's like, you're sorry? You better be sorry that you ever followed the order. I mean, do you really want to have no... Look, they'll take the money out of your bank account, dummy. If there's no due process, we're all screwed. Don't you get it, people? You're not part of the establishment. It hates you. Did you get a memo about hydrofluorosilicic acid? Did you get a memo about GMO or aspartame? Did you get a memo about it killing you and your family? No, you didn't. You're not part of the power structure. You're either going to just lay down and love evil and think you're part of it and crawl along for a while, or you're going to come in and jump on the team for the big win.
And you know what, Alex? Your listeners are on board, but now they need to do something, okay? Whatever you're doing, do more. You can do more. Put out these flyers. Get the information out. Talk about it. Show up at meetings. Anti-Delphi.
Briefly, and I promise we're going to calls, but briefly, how do you anti-Delphi?
Okay. Briefly, basically, I gave the whole layout in the back of my book, okay, and it's exact. You really...
And there's a video of people doing it on your site.
Yes, and we have, near riot at Delphi meeting where we literally took down a government meeting because they were Delphiing us and we refused to cooperate. Basically, you want to refuse to go along to get along, but you have to do it carefully or they will actually make it seem as if you are, somebody who's disrupting disrupting the meeting, and they'll bring the cops in. If you bring the cops in, it obviously shows that this is not just some sort of hunky-dory, groovy little...
No, it's done as intimidation. These are would-be authoritarians. If they could, they would put your whole family in a gulag.
Right. But
a guy just won $15 million for borrowing his buddy's car and was locked up for years. No one knew where he was in a New Mexico jail. They're now putting people in jail for 5 years over balloons. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, basically what you're going to do is ask the hard questions, and then you want to back each other up. You do this with a team. So you refuse to allow yourselves to be sidelined. You refuse to allow yourselves to be shamed, because that's what communitarianism is all about. It's about shaming you for actually speaking out. So you want to speak out. You want to support each other in these meetings.
That's right. Exactly, because they'll have their operatives planted to try to turn the cattle, so you have your people spread out who just start popping up, and it totally freaks them out.
Right, it totally freaks them out. And then you basically want to let them know that you know what's up. And eventually, when you do this, and you do this well, you have not worn your name tag, you're not identifying yourself. You are going in as a freedom force. You do it with other people. You don't identify yourselves to each other. You do it as a sort of a stealth force, because this is a...
And I'm telling you, folks, if you get happy when your team wins the Super Bowl, when you destroy their operations, it is champagne time.
It is a...
Yeah!
Oh, you feel right. It's a big hit. And then you take it on the road, and you do it in the towns near you, and you start supporting other groups. And pretty soon, you guys are outnumbering the people who are running these meetings, the consultants and the planners and the people who've been paid.
And look how they sit there real smug.
Oh, yeah.
They always try to act like that they're invincible, but it's all Wizard of Oz crap. I'm sorry.
It really is. They are snowing you. This whole thing is designed to give you the impression that this is your idea. They are literally snowing you in every one of these meetings. And if you refuse to go, it is not your plan. You are there to show the people that it is not your plan, that you do not agree, that you don't want to go along to get along with Sustainable Places Project here in Texas, or Granite State Future, or One Bay Area. And by the way, we are suing to stop the plan in our area, in the 9-county San Francisco Bay Area, One Bay Area. This is putting you guys on notice, Metropolitan Planning Organization and California and all across the world. We are suing.
And your weapon is due process, civil rights, Constitution.
That's right, and whatever, it's a constitutional violation, and we are not going to stand for it. We will block this. We will not.
Look at this lady's got a fighting spirit. And it's infectious. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because let me tell you, there's nothing more disgusting than these smug pus buckets that go around trying to rob and take over our towns and suck people dry, and then have code enforcers in police uniforms arresting old ladies who haven't mowed their yard, and $3,000 a day fines. I mean, folks, it is blood boiling.
Yeah.
Okay, they need to be in prison.
It's what it looks like. You know, what does it look like? Traffic calming, code enforcement. It looks like form-based codes. It looks like scenic byways, Vision 2025, your general plan, your master plan, your comprehensive plan, public-private partnerships, transit-oriented development. You can't smoke in your apartment.
It's a giant cult.
It is a crime. Heals, you know, healthy eating, active living. This is all about rezoning.
Well, no. You go to Whole Foods now, and it's all about, we're going to tell you how to behave. You're doing good. And people will come and go, you're making good choices.
Right.
And I go, I'm not coming back here. That happened 3 times last time I was there. Hello, you're making good choices, I see.
Really?
And it's like, oh, you're bringing GMO in here now, aren't you? It's all literal cult. Because once they get you, it's a giant cult. Yeah. It's a giant UN eugenics death cult. Okay, let's go to some calls. This is unbelievable. Right. Let's talk to George in Connecticut on Agenda 21, then Matt, then Casey, then Jeff, then Connor, and others. You're on the air. Go ahead, George in Connecticut.
I found out after your last talk on Alex that my town is not only in Agenda 21, practically 2/3 of the town is sewed up to this. I tried to stop them on a project that was a $1 billion project, and they used the police to strong-arm me and almost kill me. I mean, these people are willing to do anything to get these projects together. I'd love to find a way to get some of my money back from the court and go after these bastards. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I would start, just call yourself a citizen journalist, start a website, and start following the planners and people, and you'll find them in other criminal activities. I mean, they're always like kleptomaniac nuts. And then just burn them down on YouTube. There's more than one way to skin a cat. I have top lawyers on that beat the Food and Drug Administration on stuff, and they'll always just point out that the judge is getting money from Monsanto. I mean, they're mafia, and so it's not fighting dirty. Just go dig the dirt up on them, start hammering their heads in with the dirt, hurt them bad, send them to prison. I've sent plenty of people to prison.
Yeah, I've taken people out, crooked politicians. What you want to do, you know, I'm glad you said that, because listen, always bring your video camera with you whenever you go to any of these meetings.
Folks, this is an enemy army. Any means necessary. Hit them hard.
That's right. And this is, hey, it's war. This is war.
This is war. I'm not just up here saying it's war. This is war.
You know it's
listen, you don't even want to tell what happened to you because you don't want to scare people. But I mean, just they are thugs. People should know. I think you should go out and experience how they're mafia, folks. Then you'll know how real it is.
You know what? The more of us that are on board, the less.
Hey, used to they did stuff to you. Now they're on the run.
That's right. This is it. You know what? Don't buckle under. Stand up. You can do it. You know, if you need to work for them, you know, quit that job. If you see people that are doing these jobs and you have some money, you say to them, listen, I'm going to make it possible for you to quit that job so that you can. I was in Memphis and I was speaking there, and they had the Office of Sustainability director there, and I said, after you hear my speech, I want you to go in and resign. And I looked at the people in the audience and I said, you know what? If this man goes in and resigns today, you, the community, have to make sure that he is financially okay. This is what we need to do. We need to rebuild real community, because this plan destroys community.
And by the way, whenever you do the right thing and sacrifice something, doors just fly open. I mean,
True.
That's what frustrates me, is moving against evil is effective. People just don't even think they're in the game. I mean, they literally aren't even on the field. They just think evil has free reign.
Yeah, right. And you know what? We're so isolated from one another, and we think that, you know, what we do as an individual has no power. Believe me, what you do as an individual has tremendous power. We are tremendously powerful as
Why do you think they said we couldn't hand our magazines out anywhere downtown?
They don't want you spreading the information, and they want to intimidate you. Refuse to be intimidated.
No, I just redouble my efforts.
That's right. Exactly. This is the answer, is when they push you down, come up twice strong, twice as hard. This is the thing to do. This is how you beat.
Isn't that just natural? I mean, I don't understand. People are like, wow, you're standing up to them. I mean, they're trying to dominate us, people. We got to get angry.
Yeah, and you know what? Once again, I want to say, you know, and it's not like I hate weed or something like that, but I know there's a lot of smokers watching this. Don't allow that passivity to take you over. Block that. Well,
no, that's why they're acting like the new civil rights movement is only marijuana, because for most people, it does make them passive.
It does, and it
lowers men's testosterone.
It's a perfect drug for the New World Order. It makes you totally passive. Object. Fight that. Smoke later. Do your flyers now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. If people would just keep the dope smoke until nighttime. We'll be right back. Stay with us. It's time to go crazy on the New World Order. And they play this social mind game like we're animals. And we go, hey, we don't like world government. We don't like these wars, these drones, these checkpoints. Oh, how funny. Oh, ho, ho, ho. And then the other sheep go, ho, 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 to feel important. I mean, don't be a pathetic chump out there. And I'm talking to new listeners or people who think this is all cool. The globalists are really, really, really bad people who have a very bad plan for society. And I hope you'll get Rosa Koire's book at InfoWarsShop.com or InfoWarsStore.com. Both sites take you there. Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21. My film, Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, made almost 7 years ago, is evergreen, more important now than ever, breaking down the rest of the story. She breaks down what they're doing. This tells you where they're going. I mean, I've read hundreds of their books. So has Aaron. I mean, it's all how they're going to shut everything down and then kill us. I mean, it's just, it's total ultra-Hitlerian. Hitler was one of their students who they then set up and brought down. He was a eugenicist. Let's take more calls here in these final two short little segments. Then I'm going to do some overdrive into the fourth hour to cover some other breaking important information. But let's talk to Casey in Austin. Casey, thanks for holding. You're on the air with Rosa Koire.
Hi, Alex. Rosa, thanks for having me on. I had a quick question for Rosa, and then I just wanted to get you guys' opinion on something, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, Council of Foreign Relations and the UN, since things like that are kind of intertwined with each other, Rick Warren is a known member of the CFR and Obama's good buddy. He's going around thousands and thousands of different churches, are taking out crosses in the churches, ripping up the carpet, putting Walt Disney, in churches and things like that. how do I approach a preacher? Because bells should be going off that this guy's not good. How do I approach preachers and tell them, hey, you know, what you're doing is not good?
Well, I mean, I've talked to family and friends all over the country where Methodist churches, you name it, are pulling out the cross and saying, we don't worship Jesus anymore. It's bad. And it's a Soviet takeover. And people are now, no, that's not extreme. And the point is, if someone isn't a Christian or isn't religious, that's their issue. We're not even here judging them. It's that it's happening everywhere. Everything's being changed. Everything's being overthrown with a fake liberalism that isn't liberalism. It's a conformist. What happened in the Soviet Union or communist China? Rosa Koire, comments on that.
Yeah, you know, if your pastor's out there talking about sustainability, sustainable development, you better go have a chat with your pastor because...
the First Baptist Church right here, or the First Methodist, teaches sustainability, UN, Bill Gates is our savior. They actually say Bill Gates is our God.
Yeah, and, you know, I've done quite a bit of research on this, and obviously, you know, when you're looking at kind of the new Zen, the idea that you want to accept what is, and you want to leave the mind behind. You know, this is separating the mind and the body, so you want to release the mind. This is exactly...
So you're out in San Francisco in an area, so you know what it's like. No, the new coolness is to be a chump. They actually say, I want to be a slave.
Right, yeah, and I mean, if you look at, I think it's called the Blue Pyramid or something like that, about, you know, how you're supposed to... surround yourself with people who believe the same way that you do, drink 2 glasses of wine a day, and meditate.
And that's what Google does now. It puts you in a little subgroup. It knows your algorithm and then only keeps you in a group that agrees with you.
Right. And so you are actually being manipulated, and so are the churches, your pastors.
We're in a body snatcher level conspiracy.
Totally.
I mean, folks, people that say their life's boring.
I know.
I mean, unbelievable, unmitigated craziness is going on.
Look in your closet and see if there's a pod in there.
Yeah.
This is really what it's about, and they are subverting religion. They're saying that religion has to take on the ecology model or it will disappear.
That's the UN one world government religion
right.
that Revelation talks about.
Block it. Speak to your pastor. Give them the truth.
Yeah, or walk. Go in there, print up a flyer, start handing it out, break that church up. Those preachers say, don't do that. No. Those churches are nothing but synagogues of Satan. Jesus was talking to the rabbis about how they really weren't, one particular temple, wasn't, following, what God has said. So in the Old Testament, so he said, you're of the synagogue of Satan. It's the same thing for these churches, Muslim temples. I don't care if you're a Hindu, whatever it is, your temple, your church, your synagogue has become a command base of state-run religion, which is corporate-run religion. And so, the point is, separation of church and state is the government isn't involved in religion. Now they've turned it around saying you can't have your political views as a religion when you should all have your own diverse ideas. So they've turned it around backwards and are now saying the churches have to conform to what the government says when the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, and then freedom of the press and so forth. Your take on that?
Yeah, this is about this is really about instituting passivity. And, this is exactly the opposite of what you want. When no matter where you go, if you go into your, if you go to worship, you should have a pastor who's out there talking about freedom and about supporting you as a free individual. And if that's not happening in your church, then you want to find another church.
I have family locally that went to a church, so I've been there many times with my children, who had a preacher who was what I'd call constitutionalist, but more towards a little liberal, but anti-war, talking about the Bill of Rights. They had him retire and brought in a husband-wife team, and it's all Bill Gates is Jesus, basically.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, but it's everywhere now. It's Baptist churches. It's everything.
Yeah, Bill Gates, isn't that interesting? I mean, he'd probably say he's bigger than Jesus. Take on John Lennon, with basically what are they doing? They are getting their little machine, direct instruction. They're getting their machine to every child, so that they can directly speak to the child without anyone interfering. And this is happening everywhere. So, of course, this is their God because the God is in the box.
Well, exactly. What did Ray Kurzweil say? He said, I don't believe in God yet. I'm going to become God.
Whoa.
Whoa, yeah. Connor in Arizona, you're on the air. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, Connor. Hello, Connor.
Right.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Alex?
All right.
How you doing, Rosa?
Thank you, brother. Go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to point out to you guys, I'm actually a 17-year-old in high school, And I've been meaning to call in for a while, and I'm glad you guys covered this because last year when I was a sophomore, I took some intro to sociology and psychology classes, and I wanted to let you guys know they're using the TED conferences as a part of the curriculum, where you have to take notes on the TED conferences.
Oh, yeah, no. And they get all the smart people there to make globalism and collectivism look cool and sexy. And, yeah, no, they're forced, and it's all eugenics.
Yeah, you know, I'd love to do a TED conference. I'm sure they'd never give me a chance. You know, get me on Amy Goodman or a TED conference. These are things, they will never give you that voice. They will never give you that platform. These are people who are actually crafting behavioral modification.
And they know they are.
This is their role.
I've been around these globalists, and they goes, of course we're doing behavioral modification and treating the public like a herd of baboons. I mean, they're there, treating you.
You know, you're hip. Look at Bono. You know, you're hip. You're cool. You're talking about, you know.
Turns out 99% of the money he raises, he keeps.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, that came out. It's actually less than 1%. Talk about cold-blooded, man.
Yeah, really. That's something else, isn't it? You know, this is
Salvation Army gives about 97.
Yeah, you know what? People who are forwarding this plan, there's a huge amount of hypocrisy, there's a huge amount of greed, but that is not at the top of the pyramid. The top of the pyramid is control. Control.
Wild control freaks.
Total control.
Hey, great point, Connor. Just, hey, spread the word. Expose TED as a cult. Okay, do that. Fight back. Good job, Connor. Hey, listen, I know you're going to do the nightly news now with Melissa Melton, an interview, so congratulations on all you're doing, Rosa. And you're going to come back after you speak in Bastrop tomorrow. I'm going to tape some for a film that's coming up. So I just want to thank you for coming out. Rosa Koire, I get a lot of energy being around you. I think vice versa. Behind the Green Mask, available right now at InfoWarsShop.com. Visit InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.